It's in the grocery store. You have to show me how you do that.
I can show you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I can hear you now.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Is that Jimmy G I hear?
Yeah.
Hi, buddy.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. I can't see you. I just dialed in. I don't have a camera or a microphone on my computer.
Uh-huh.
But I wanted to just join you this evening. Mr. Murphy said that he's going to be joining you all this evening for a little while, and I thought, what a gift.
Okay, we'll go first then, because I know that Jim Murphy likes to be in bed with his bottle of milk by,
And I thought this was an anonymous program.
No, this is kind of a different deal. I'll explain what it is, but
Okay.
We have some very special guests tonight, too,
yeah, we have a bunch of guests.
on the salon. So we
So,
should get started.
yeah.
All right. Welcome, everyone. Wait a minute. It's not quite 8:15.
Oh, okay, so we'll wait till 8:15. So what it is we interview people and stuff like that, and I asked Jim Murphy to come and talk about that award that he gave to Howard.
Uh-huh.
And we're going to talk about that. And Jake, you're the host, huh? Whoop.
I don't think so. I think you're the host.
No, it says you're the host.
Oh, yeah?
Make me co-host.
Okay. Got it.
Okay. So I'm going to explain the concept here in a second, and we'll get Jim Murphy on here. We'll let him go first, and then I can devote myself to you, my full attention, my firstborn.
Yeah, we're excited to hear about.
I see you there in the grocery store. And
I'm in
then,
the grocery store. I figured I'd dial in from the grocery store because, we miss being there.
I hear you. And sometime, and then David Lazaroff will come over later. We'll do a little music and some poetry, and Susie Talve will tell some really long stories. And we start off, of course, with hair tips. So I want to make
It's the salon.
it's a salon. So we start out with hair tips, and you can see that Susie has this a very large hair to face ratio, which I don't have. I don't have a hair to face ratio. Mine's
Neither does my son.
right. But Susie has a nice hair to face ratio, and that's is about all we know about hair tips, and that's as much as we'll cover tonight. Zachy is usually with us, but Zachy's off on a secret destination tonight. I don't think he can join us. And last week we talked about food, actually. We talked about, we had some cuisine going on, some sophisticated cuisine going on last week. And we gave over some of that expertise from the Eastern Mediterranean.
Claire Saffitz, who really is quite well known. She has a food podcast, and she worked for Bon Appetit. And her sweetheart, Harris, who opened a new restaurant called Pokey's
In New York City.
New York. It's takeout Jewish barbecue.
So we spoke to them last week. I think you should do the background, Jake.
That's what I'm trying to do.
There you
There
go.
we go.
So we did that last week, and we had, that's cute.
Jake.
We had David Lazaroff always, he's accompanies me, and we do some collaborations, some collaborative stuff. And sometimes I read some poetry depending on how angry I am about what was going on that week. The anger quotient is high this week, so I might read some of that poetry. And let's see. And I have a couple of stories I'm going to tell. And let's see here. I even have a poem that I kind of wrote with your son,
Our grandson.
a grandson. it's a rough poem, but it's something he's thinking about. It's about the germ, you know. I might start with that actually. I took this from the translation of the Yiddish from the Yiddish. It's called Menschenfresser, or man-eater, devourer, or devourer of human beings, with apologies to Hall & Oates. It's a pandemic ballad, crazy as that sounds. It was written in 1916 by Solomon Smulowitz. He became known as Solomon Small here in the United States. He was a badchin, a jester, and a traveling singer, and a cantor, and an interesting guy. Wrote for the Yiddish theater, and he wrote a song about about various pandemics. He wrote about a sequence of epidemics in the early 20th century: tuberculosis, polio, cholera. Each verse of his song, and influenza, it ends with the influenza epidemic of 1918, 1919. And the piece was first published, I think, in 1916. He was a Russian-born street singer, badchin, like a jokester, jester, and a composer for the Yiddish theater. In his later years, he toured all over Canada, the United States with his daughter, Dorothy. But by then, you know, tastes changed, and he died broke on January 1st, 1943 in New York. Ah, there's my man. Okay, I'll do this later. There's Jim Murphy.
Hello, Jim and Susan and Jake.
You know who else is here? Is Jim R is here too.
Jim Robinson. I see his phone number.
His phone is there. He doesn't have a camera. He's in some undisclosed location. So
he's in witness protection again.
I think you got that right. So let me explain the concept here for our many visitors and the ships at sea. People watch this all over the world, I'm told. Is that true, Susie?
That's what we're told.
I know there's a guy in...
You could be president.
Yeah. There's a guy in Paris that watches. Hey, there's a guy in Paris that watches. I know Miri often watches in Jerusalem.
Well, I'm taking my hoard down because I don't want people to know where to come for toilet paper. Here's the other places that we wish we were still in.
Jake. So this is Susie, and I'm her accompanist. So what this is we do a salon every week now at 8:15 here from our undisclosed location, our remote location. We started this at a place called the High Low. Are we live?
You're live.
We started this at a place called the High Low in the city where we live, here on the Heartline, the omphalos, the belly button of America. And we did that once a month. It came from a concept that I picked up in Jerusalem. I went to Dov Noy's Salon. He was a professor. He was at Hebrew University. He was very influential in my life, opened up a lot of doors for me. And I got a nice invitation to join his salon that he did on Monday nights, I believe it was, on Balfour Street in his apartment in Jerusalem. And I was there to give music. I was there to provide music because the most interesting people in the country were there. And you just went around the room and you said what you were into. And then I came to give over music because nobody was doing music. And Professor Noy really loved music. So I would come and do a song, and I got to really appreciate the concept. So we asked the High Low here in St. Louis if we could do the concept there. So we started doing it once a month. Then the pandemic hit, and so we took off for a while, and then we said, let's bring it back online. Let's do it this way. So it's more conversational than it used to be, which suits me just fine, Sometimes I'll do a story or a song or something, or Susie will do a song. She loves to sing from the Billie Holiday catalog. And I'll accompany her. And we have different people on every week. And some people just drop in. It's like the old Soupy Sales show. They drop in, they say a few things, they leave, they come back. So it's been a really nice thing for us to do. We've enjoyed doing it. Right, Susie?
Right.
I think so. So tonight, and we have all kinds of things. Sometimes we've had academic people on here. We've had comedians on here. We've had a bunch of musicians on here. All kinds of stuff. And so we usually do a little bit of everything. So tonight I wanted to talk about my pal Jim Murphy's on here. My pal Jim Robinson's on here. These are my buddies. And they honored another pal of ours, Howard, this week. And I thought that's a great thing to talk about. So one of the things that we've been doing since the pandemic hit is that I run this organization called Shalva. Shalva means serenity in Hebrew. And we run two meetings a week for people who are recovering from alcoholism and chemical dependency. We need the meetings. And so the meetings continued with even more ferocity, I would say, more regularity than before even. So we hold 2 Zoom meetings a week, and Howard is, our friend Howard is in a memory care facility now, and he's been very influential in this area in our town. And I know that Jim Murphy has been active in organizations in town on behalf of the cause of recovery, the recovery cause in our town, and that this week they presented the best way they could an award to Howard. Does that cover it pretty good?
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah, thanks for inviting me, Jim. And Susan, I love your t-shirt. That's a great t-shirt. I think there's a coffee mug with it too that I keep seeing that would be perfect. Yes. This week we gave my good friend and your good friend and Jimmy Robinson's good friend. And I don't know if you ever met Howard Potratz, but
Yeah, he met.
I think Adina once called him the president of AA, or
That's right.
Yeah.
We went out to dinner with them in Israel.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Jake, do you remember he took us to a meat place? You were so happy.
Yeah, it was at Ben Yehuda, and it was like a Brazilian meat place.
Yes.
It was an odd thing to be at the, right around the corner from the old city.
I love it.
Yeah, I remember that.
That's where Howard would want to go. He'd been eating Atkins forever.
You were young, right, Jake?
Yeah.
You were 12.
I would have been 12, yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. And that was one of the trips that he has talked about forever, and it was one of the gifts that, Jim, I think you basically just said, go there and I'll be there. And you ended up being his tour guide. So it was an extremely special, dear to his heart experience. But yeah, I mean, we've all known Howard for 30 years. In fact, we just had his 30th birthday party at CRC on the 1st of December. Feels like a whole lot of years ago, not 6 months.
Oh my God, yes. Feels like ages ago.
Oh, it's just incredible. But Howard, while active in, his pat line was, if you weren't in 3 programs, you were probably in denial. And while active in one-on-one active recovery activities, he was also active in what supports the recovery community. And while he was on lots of boards, he was on the Central Service Board, he was on Harris House's board. I also got him involved. I was brought on to NCADA's board, the National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Addiction in St. Louis. It's an affiliate chapter of NCADD, which is the national. The St. Louis affiliate is actually a bigger entity than the national is. And NCADA the mission is to work to reduce and prevent the harms of alcohol and other drug use through education, intervention, and advocacy. And I went on the board in, I believe it was 2004, 2005, and was on it up until last year when I was termed off. In the last 6 years of it, I was honored to be board president. And about a year or two after I joined the board, Howard wanted to join. So I brought Howard onto the board, and he became just a tremendous board member. Certainly not just someone who checked a box that they were on a board. He was active in attending events. He was active at board meetings. He was active in committees. He was an active guy. Anybody who knew him, he was a Chamber of Commerce kind of guy. He wanted everybody and his brother to know about what we were doing at NCADA. So every spring we have typically, and I still say we, NCADA has a volunteer luncheon where people in the recovery community, be it in academia, be it in schools, be it in the recovery area, are awarded for the activities that go on. We had an MD from SLU this year, the woman who is the superintendent of schools down in Arnold, the Fox district, was awarded something this year. And just really wonderful stand-up people. And one of the awards that they have is the Alumni Award. And it was for activities in the community of people who work for the agency, who have been through the programs, who have somehow been involved with NCADA, who continue to give up above and beyond to the recovery community. And this year, they decided to change the name of the award from the Alumni Award to the Happy Howard Potratz Alumni Award. And just couldn't have been a more fitting gift because of the activity that he does, and he has done. I was talking to Nancy about coming on, my wife Nancy, about coming on here earlier, and she said, there are people who get involved in agencies with their activities, who are running around doing things, and there are people who write big checks. And Howard was one of those guys that did both. He showed up to everything where he was asked to show up to, and he wrote big checks because it takes money to support these activities. NCADA touches about 70,000 kids in St. Louis County and City every year with prevention activities to help them make better decisions, whether it's friend building, anti-bullying activities, anti-smoking behavior, those types of things. And one of the other things that was near and dear to both Howard's and my heart was we had a program called the Transitional Counseling Program. And one of the most tragic things that we're all aware of is the pipeline to prison that occurs in schools when kids get in trouble early just because they're being kids. And the next thing you know, they're in the criminal justice system, and it doesn't spiral up from there. So TCP was a program that we started. Initially, it was started to reach kids in Franklin County because there was no way that we could, not to drag it out, if a kid used to get popped for being drunk or suspected of being drunk or with a joint or something like that at school, he was immediately turned over to the juvenile justice system in Jefferson County. And we got a grant from the Missouri Foundation for Health to be an intermediary, because it may just be a kid being a knucklehead and making a bad decision. It may be a problem at home. It may be a bigger problem that needs some addressing right there and then, but they certainly don't need to be turned over to the juvenile justice system. And with the grant, we established a location down there. We established, we got a nice big, Howard Weissman. Howard Weissman looks great in our big 4-wheel drive Dodge truck. If you see Susan, ask Susan about it. But we've brought that up to the St. Louis City schools as well. And we're in a couple of schools now, because to me, there's nothing worse than a young kid in a predominantly minority school who gets into the criminal justice system when he or she doesn't need to. We just don't need that. And last year, the grant ran out, and Howard and I and a couple other people got together and said, let's see what we can do to refund this thing. So he funded it primarily on his own last year until we could get the grant reestablished. So it was just such an honorable and wonderful thing to do. And like I talk about all the time is, it's the starfish. You walk down a beach and there's a bunch of starfish lying there, and there's an old guy throwing a starfish back in the water once in a while. And somebody asks, all these other starfish, what difference does it make that you're doing this? And he says, well, it matters to that starfish. And Howard was a guy who saw what actions could matter to starfish. And it was such a blessing to have the agency, NCADA, I've been off the board for 1.5 years now, saw fit to change the name of the award to the Howard Potratz Award, and to award it to him. And we had a little ceremony through Zoom the other day because he's in memory care and we can't see him. And forever and ever, people will know the Howard Potratz, the Happy Howard Alumni Award. So I know he's near and dear to all our hearts, and to everybody in the recovery community in St. Louis.
That's great.
He was watching me at doing the stuff that I do, and he started giving me money. Mm-hmm. I said, Howard, and he knew that nobody else was giving me money. My own community was not giving me money.
Yeah, especially the Nev days. Yeah,
they were not interested in funding this work that I do. So Howard kept giving me money. I said, and when I went over recently, came over to work with Susie, the woman who keeps the books there, she says to me, who is this guy? He keeps sending you money. I wouldn't have even known if she wouldn't have said anything to me. I wouldn't have known. He kept sending me money.
Yeah.
He's, you're right.
It's who he is.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that his name is going to continue like that, because people will always say, well, who was he and what did he do? And now his legacy really lives on, and it just may inspire other people to do that.
And we can tell the stories, and the stories help him live.
He wasn't just a check writer. He had time for people, always had time for people.
Nice.
Well, thanks for coming on the big show, Jim. I really appreciate it. Is the other Jim still here?
He is.
Yes, he is.
Okay. Well, you guys.
I wanted to hear your song or your poem. I was fascinated by that little thing you were telling about the guy that summarized the 3 pandemics.
Oh, yeah. I wrote it with my grandson because he calls it the germ. So it's, I took it, the original's in Yiddish. So they use bacilli and something else. And Harry was talking to Harry. He says, no, it's the germ. It's about the germ. I'll just read a little bit of it. A terrible plague spreading around the world. This is written in 1916. A great fire burning. No remedy. You suck the marrow from our bones. The germ lies buried deep in the lungs. The germ, the microbe, builds a nest. They eat us up, body and soul. We must fade away before our time. We feel ourselves going quiet and slow and suffering and dying. Dark thoughts worsen. The angel of death for years lingers in our hearts. Oh, germ, what do you want? What were you sent for? You eat offerings without mercy. Your aim, these lives, you bathe in tears of weeping. So, yeah, we got some stuff going here. Thanks, guys, for showing up and honoring Howard, and
sharing the story.
We'll pray for him and send him postcards while we can, and hopefully in soon in days we can go and visit him again. That would be nice.
Yeah, Susie, he's in Park Provence, which is, I think, owned by the same crew where your dad is. And, they've been wonderful. They're doing what they can. And hopefully in another week or two, we're going to be able to sit across the sidewalk from him and do that.
That'd be nice.
It would.
All right, I'm gonna let you guys go because Jim, I know you have your bottle of milk and like to be in bed by 8:45. So
I think you mean me. He's up all night. So, but you're
you.
right.
I mean you.
Also, just the last word on
The Korean soap operas are just starting now.
What was the last word, Susan?
No, I just wanted to say about the work that you were doing too with the school to prison pipeline, and to save, to make sure that kids get a chance.
Mm-hmm.
What great work, and I'm so glad that program continues. And I wish.
Yeah, it is, and it's
great.
in a couple of city schools. Buying time in a classroom is tough, and but yeah, they're fighting the good fight. That's for sure.
That's great. Thanks for the
Hey
good work.
guys, I
Love y'all.
Love
I'm
you
really
guys.
grateful
Thanks
we're
for having
friends.
us.
But I'll tell you, if you keep
Thank you.
listening, you'll be in for a treat, because our son Jake is about to share with us his passion.
I can't believe you invited me on the night that you were going to talk about all this amazing work that Jim's doing, and now I got to talk about gemstones.
Yeah, that's
All right, I'm going to listen to Gemstones. Your mother just had an enrollment conversation, so I got to stay.
No, we're proud of you, Jake. This has been a passion of Jake since he was a little kid. We moved into this house when Jake was 4 years old. I think within that year, he took a walk around the corner and he found his first crystal. I mean, it was in the ground.
It was in the ground. And you know what? It's funny that you bring that up. And, not that I could have called that you would have brought that up, but I did. Oh, man, look, you can't even see the crystal, but this is it.
Well, that's the very crystal. Man,
This is the very crystal.
I remember the day you found it.
Yeah.
I was
See
amazed.
what's actually behind me right now, but I got to turn this off so you can see it.
Yeah. Yeah, if we can see it. Can you hold it up?
So
That's
there's
the
the
crystal
crystal.
we found.
It's a double terminated, which means it has a point on both sides. Smoky quartz. And I found it right in the ground, right next to Merrimack Elementary, where they were doing some construction.
Yeah, I remember.
And you can actually see how it grew, because it's got this little area here that's been broken off. So this would have been in the ground, kind of like this, coming out. And that's how it grew.
And how you saw it. I mean, I remember. It was crazy.
I don't think it grew there. I think somebody buried it.
Buried it, or did it get like upheaval because of the construction or something? Or
I don't think so. The way that I found it, the tip of it was just poking out. So somebody would have had to dug a hole and then put it straight up.
Oh, interesting.
So that they could come back and find it again. I think somebody buried it there intentionally and then probably forgot that it was there. Because I've never seen any other type of large smoky quartz crystals coming out of Clayton, Missouri.
So Jake's a gemologist. He's a graduate of GIA, the Gem Institute of America, correct?
Gemological Institute of America. They're the organization that developed the way that we grade and value diamonds in the world. So they're like really the only place worth getting any type of education from stateside. Yeah.
But you always loved rocks and gems. And
Hey,
Hi.
Josie's here. Josie was putting our children to bed.
Hi.
did they go to bed?
Yeah, they did.
We'll see.
Yeah, so I've always been into gemstones and rocks and everything in between. As you know, I started making jewelry when I was 8. I think based on something that a friend of yours gave you, right? A friend of yours had given you, if I have the story correct, their whole collection of beads, and you brought them home, and I went to town on them.
That's right. Yeah. And when he was in 5th grade, the little boys used to come by the house and buy their mother's
Day presents, yeah.
Day presents.
Valentine's Day presents for sweethearts.
He had more money than anybody.
Jake's Jewelry.
Jake's Jewelry.
Jake's Jewelry, yeah. That was my first business that I opened in jewelry, and I was 11 years old. Yeah. And there's still some of my pieces are walking around St. Louis still. Every now and then I see somebody walks up to me and is like, "You made this for me when you were 12." Well, I'm glad it still holds up.
So what do you got to show us?
I went to my my stash. I've been really interested in, well, as you know, as I have a weakness for beads, and recently I've been really interested in gemstone beads, only in natural materials. So I have a bunch of things that we can look at, and there I have a digital microscope that we can I can share the screen with, and I can show you some stuff that's inside of stones, which is where I spend most of my time. As currently I work for myself as a side project. I own a jewelry company that specializes in appraisals, jewelry design, and brokering estate goods for private clients. So I've been designing a bunch of almost a series of fine gemstone beaded necklaces. So I've got some of that to show you today. Let's see. Recently, I found a source locally that has been able to provide, I don't know if you can see this, but these are opals. And as they move through the light, you'll see flashes of purple and green and red. I've never seen opal cut in, each one is like a pebble on the strand. So I haven't determined what we're going to do with that yet.
Where do opals come from? Where are they?
Ethiopia, mostly Australia. They also come from Nevada here in the States. They come from Mexico. What's interesting about opal is it's about 80% water, and the rest is just gem silica, which is what sands and beaches are made of. So really opal could be formed anywhere. And there are a lot of localities around the world where it does form, but it doesn't produce the beautiful display of color that you get from Australia or Ethiopia, the Walo opals. That recent movie that came out with Adam Sandler about where he was a jeweler.
Yeah.
It was very popular for a while. That Ethiopian black opal that he said he had to like track down, that doesn't exist. That material does not come from that place.
Are there black opals available in the United States?
There are. There's actually quite a few places that you can travel to and dig for yourself. There's a Royal Peacock opal mine in Nevada, about 3 hours from Las Vegas, where you can go and dig and find black opal. And they have really beautiful specimens there. But you can also, like I said, you can find opal almost anywhere because the components are very common. But the trick is to find it where you get the fire, the play of color inside of the opal. That's what everybody talks about, as those flashes of, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, pretty much the whole color spectrum can be found in there. So it's a really magnificent material. The hardest part is that it's so soft. So you really have to know how to mount it so that it'll last for generations.
There's David Lazaroff checking in from Paris, it looks like.
Hey, Dave.
We're interviewing Jacob and Josie right now.
I'm
And
listening.
then we'll do some music. That'll be great.
Take your time. I'm just hanging out.
Okay, pal. So what else you got there, Jake? Those are beautiful. You don't know what you're going to do with them. You
I
know,
don't know what I'm going to do with those yet.
there is somebody who actually wears stuff like that.
Who's that?
Someone's birthday's coming up soon.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Who?
I don't know.
Oh,
People.
But that's nice. What else you got?
that's nice. All right, I'm gonna try to do something here. I'm gonna try to share my screen so that I can use my can you see that?
Yeah.
All right, hold on. It's light. This is a digital microscope.
Oh,
Try
man.
to pull up some pieces that we can see the inside of.
Wow. What is that?
Whoa.
This is rutilated quartz.
Wow.
The golden needles that come through that, that just crystal clear material. The crystal clear material is quartz. The golden needles are rutile, another mineral. And this, when I found this material, I've never seen anything that's so compact with rutile inside of this crystal clear quartz. So let's see if I can come back now. The strand itself is gorgeous. It's all thrown on a golden yellow piece of silk. They're individually knotted so they don't move around. But I saw this at a trade store as the material, and it was the last one that they had. And it was 3 years ago I bought these beads, and I have not been able to find them since.
Wow, those are nice.
Yeah, I love that material. Rutile is just beautiful when it comes through certain stuff. I can find the same type of material. It's called tourmalated quartz, which instead of golden needles, it has these really beautiful black intersecting needles inside of the quartz, which are tourmaline. Many people will recognize the name tourmaline. It's just another common gemstone that we use, and we get them in all sorts of colors. Rubellite is red, indicolite is blue, and it's an amazing material. The ancient Greeks used to say that tourmaline fell from heaven, and on its descent, it passed through a rainbow, and that's why you can find it in every single color.
Wow.
But tourmaline is remarkable. It gets amazing color zoning, which is, different areas of the crystal will have different colors. What else should I show, baby?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. This next one is moonstone. And it's another crystal clear material, but this has a very fine web of silk inside that actually gives you kind of a blue sheen. So let's see what this looks like close up. You see that flash?
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow.
That's cool.
So these are called phenomenal gems. Phenomenal gems are gems that exhibit some type of optical property that isn't found in other crystal systems like sapphire. You wouldn't see this, but sapphire has a phenomenal gem counterpart that is part of asterism, which is a star effect. Some people have ever heard of like star sapphires, star rubies,
Yeah, I've seen those.
black star sapphire.
Mm-hmm.
That's another phenomenal characteristic for that gemstones display. It's called asterism, the use of a star. And stars can be 4-rayed or 6-rayed. And what's really interesting is in sapphire, you can tell what is natural versus synthetic, depending on how you're looking inside of the stone and how many rays you see. And especially the way that the ray kind of displays itself across the material. And I'm going to show you an example of that. I'm pulling out some of my loose gems that I have collected. And the one I want to show you is a black star sapphire, which will have that asterism. I warn you, it's not the nicest of black star sapphires.
Is that a USB microscope?
It is.
That's so cool.
All right, here we go. So that's the star sapphire here. I'm going to try to get the flash to be seen. I think my light is a little bit too bright, so I'll try to undo the screen share in a moment. So I'll show you the star. But if you look, I know it's a little bright because of my light. Let me see if I can turn that down.
Oh yeah.
So do you see? If you look inside of the stone, you see how it's kind of angular. Like there are lines.
Yeah.
So that's how you can determine a synthetic from a natural stone. This is a natural stone. It has an angular growth pattern. In a synthetic, those will be curved.
Wow. That's great.
Wow.
So let's see if I can get this star to show up here. If you'll be able to see it.
A lot of good song lyrics in this presentation.
So there's the star.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Oh yeah,
It's a star.
that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go. Oh, it's hard trying to figure out how to do this and know where the camera is the whole time. So now I'll show you what here's another sapphire. This one is lab grown, so this is a synthetic. It's an 8-carat color change sapphire. Like I said, it's synthetic. These things are oftentimes sold as a synthetic alexandrite. There's no way to make a synthetic alexandrite, so they end up making the closest thing, and then they market it the other way. All right, so let's see, try to find. So what we're looking at here, this is the bottom of that 8-carat color change. And what I'm going to attempt to find is a little area that we can, like a window through the stone, where you'll be able to see kind of like curved striations. Let's see if I can find it. I tested this earlier, so I know it works.
Can you record on that program?
I can take pictures, yeah.
Yeah, we should get a bunch of video.
We'll work on that.
Yeah.
Let's see. This is about how I spend most of my time in the microscope, just trying to find the perfect angle to find exactly what I need to diagnose what the stone is. This one, there's a couple of identification factors. First of all, it's way too clean. A sapphire of this size should have something inside of it. This doesn't have anything.
So it does. Why do you care if it's synthetic or natural? Is it? I mean, still looks beautiful.
It is very beautiful, absolutely, and I think everybody deserves to have access. So, but you know, price point is a big portion of jewelry sales, and you know, you can buy this 8-carat synthetic color change sapphire for a few $100s. If you want an 8-carat natural color change sapphire, you're talking about several $1,000s.
Hey, Jake, you know that sapphire you got from my ring?
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
I had a dealer friend that gave us that. I actually looked at several stones for your ring.
The story for that ring is that Jim had his grandfather's ring and he lost it. So Jake made him a replacement, right?
Yeah, and we kind of improved the design, Pop, right?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, you know, I don't lose things typically, you know, it's
All right,
Harry
I'm
did
about
it.
to lose it. Do you see it? Do you see there's like kind of a like a
here.
curved
Right here.
growth pattern. It's kind of going across all the facets. It's very faint.
Uh-huh.
It almost looks like a tiny rainbow.
yeah,
So that's how you know that this is synthetic.
cute.
Because what's happening when they grow those, you know, they have a boule. So they have an area with a small piece of corundum, which is the material that sapphire and ruby are made out of. Sapphire and ruby are the exact same stones, just different indicator minerals inside. Ruby
so
has
a ruby, right?
ruby has chromium. Yeah, yours is a ruby. Sapphire is the same stone, but it's blue.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can get any color sapphire. In fact, there are sapphires that are coming out of Montana right now, out of Yogo Gulch, that have 2, 3, 4 different colors inside of them, and they're amazing. They only come out of that area.
That's cool. So
Yeah, recently they're finding a lot of new stuff.
we should ask Josie what she's into, what she's doing these days. Josie is an artist and she raises our grandchildren.
I'm part of that too.
We are too. Thank you very much.
She rears our grandchildren, and
Yeah.
she's an artist, and she's she even made a video
I
for
made a
me.
few videos. Yeah. Yeah, I guess
What are you working on?
right now I'm just trying to go through all the kids' clothes and clean. But yeah, this pandemic has taught me a lot. I'm usually not very good with technology. Jake always jokes that I could just look at a computer and it will blow up or start smoking.
She has this amazing ability. I think she like emits a certain electrical charge. There are people like this in the world. Yeah.
Josie, I want you to know you're not alone.
Tim Robinson is like that.
Yeah, good. I'm glad I'm not the only one. So yeah, like I try to stay away from it as much as possible, but with the pandemic, I've been having to do a lot of Zoom lessons, and which are really cool. I really enjoy doing art on Zoom, and I've learned how to make videos.
You know, I've watched those. They are
Amazing.
great. They are so good.
Creative.
They're fun.
So good.
And you know, usually when someone encourages me to make what they want, I don't have so much fun. But when I could just kind of do whatever, it's a lot of fun. Harry, my son, helps me a lot. He's my little assistant, and he actually comes up with a lot of the ideas. Recently, he let us know that the reason why he watches TV so much is because he wants to create his own shows. So we got to encourage it.
Those videos are
So-
great. They're so great.
But Josie, you were also doing some really important work, it felt like, with a special population, people who have certain abilities or
Oh,
disabilities.
recently?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I was working with the J for their adult day center, which I didn't know this going into it. And you know, maybe some people know a little bit more about it. But I've learned a lot. It's a really amazing group. They have 2 programs. One are for people with like Alzheimer's and dementia, like the typical adult day center. And then the other group just got started a few years ago, and it's people with cognitive disabilities, and they've aged out of the special school district. And it's so cool. It's a really great group, a great organization, and they're so fun. And Jim and Jake joined me for a few lessons, and it's so fun. And I love, yeah.
Intimidated by the technology, which amazes me, but they loved it, right?
Yeah,
they got right into it.
Oh yeah, yeah. And that was the other thing is like all these. I feel like this pandemic has really forced people to learn technology. It's so cool that people are just. I mean, some people who've never even turned on a computer before are going on every day for a Zoom lesson.
Right.
It's really cool.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how we reap the benefits of, those that new ability where more people know exactly what they're doing online.
Right.
I mean, people are forced to engage online right now.
Right.
Reduce carbon footprint, reduce.
Your appraising business, your jewelry business, teaching, all of these things have taken on, you kind of have to reinvent ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of teachers that I've talked to really enjoy it because, and that's the other thing is I was shocked how great of a connection I was able to get with people on Zoom lessons. And I did CRC's camp, which they're doing a second session at the end of July. And that was great too. I got to meet all the kids at CRC and do art with them. And, it's crazy that like on the computer, you could have such great relationships with people for like a half-hour class or hour class.
You got picked up for session 2 with the CRC camp.
Session 2.
I did too, by the way.
Nice. Yeah, it's fun. Next session is Tikkun Olam. And Charlene.
What kind of things did you do with the kids?
What was that?
What kind of things did you do with the kids during the first summer session?
What kind of activities did you do?
Where's my little guy? We so they had different themes every week, and I can't remember the Hebrew words, but one week was kindness, and I ordered a whole bunch of cloth masks for the kids that were white, and we designed the masks. One week was gratitude, and we made leaf print greeting cards, and then the last week was Tikkun Olam, and there's a sculpture that I used to make with my high school students all the time. No, Harry keeps hiding it. And it's a Keith Haring inspired sculpture, which Keith Haring, do you guys know who Keith Haring is?
Yeah, great sculptures at Children's Hospital.
You met him?
No, I said his sculptures are all over Children's Hospital.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So I did the sculpture for my high school students, and they have to pick a theme that they're passionate about. And, they always ended up being amazing. And I had a few students win a few awards. I had one student, I wish I had images. I actually have hers downstairs somewhere.
Is there anything we can search online?
I'm going to pull up my website. Maybe it's there. Jake's going to look it up. Oh, what's my website? That's a great question. Hold on a second. Yeah, you could search. So anyway, I had a few students win awards because of it. So I thought that would be great for Tikkun Olam, the theme. And so kids were supposed to build this sculpture and then get magazines and look through it and make a collage of something that they were passionate about how to save the world or change the world.
I think, that's the power of this salon for me and why it's so wonderful to be able to take the time, especially in these challenging times, when we have so much serious work to do, to take a moment and to listen to each other's passions. And, you know,
Well, that's what Dovnoy did. He went around
Yeah.
the room. He said, what are you into?
what are you into?
What are you
right?
into?
What do you care about? What are you passionate about?
What are you working on?
And, you know, because that opens up, you never know what connection there's going to be. You never know what that's going to open up and how it will make a connection, you know, to someone else or to another world. So
I want to thank you for being on the big show. We have to move on to David
do a
Lazaroff
little
here.
music.
So
Jake, you've been passionate about, you know, gems and jewelry.
oh,
Hey there, little guy.
oh.
wow.
George.
George is so alert.
He's not sleeping.
Yeah, he woke up.
George doesn't want to miss anything. George is going to have many passions in his life.
George
Right?
of the jungle.
And Josie, able to, you know, keep doing, you know, what you're passionate about, what you care about. And, you know, I know one of the things that Jake does that I see is he makes rings for couples that are getting married. And, you know, I know it may not seem really important unless you're going through that, but if you're going through that and you have somebody to work with, you know, I always tell couples when we get to that ring part in the ceremony that they may be ordinary bands with gems, but once you put them on you say those words and you put them on your fingers, you know, they become something extraordinary. They become sacred objects. They teach, you know, it's one of those teachings that you can take the ordinary and raise it up and make it holy. And, you know, I think about that in all the things that are going on, whether it's the pandemic or the protests or all the things we're doing. There's so many things that feel ordinary, but if we remember to raise them up with our passions and make them holy, you know, the world will change. The world will change.
Jake, those bead creations you made when you were a kid, I wear them all the time.
Me too.
They're
great.
so
They're
beautiful.
holy.
They're so
I don't know anybody else that could pull off bone and fish tooth, and you wanted to wear all that stuff.
I love that stuff.
But Jake, that's
people are
what I
always
wanted.
saying, "Where'd you get that?" My son made
Ram's horn. Yeah.
Amazing things. But what I want to say too is that I know the couples that you've worked with, and you really help them design beautiful objects that I know will be transformative for them. So
That's really the best part about what I can do for couples. You know, I mean, working with a couple is fantastic, especially since there's no guessing game. You know, that's the old. I would love to work with a couple every time, but just these guys that I get to work with, you know, that have no idea the questions to ask or you know what to look for or you know how to navigate that process. That's really like the biggest reward I get is, you know, this past project that I just finished, which you can actually look at on my website. I just launched a website recently, stlgems.com, home of the concierge gemologist. But if you go to the bottom of the page, you'll see recent work that I've completed. And the most recent is a 14 karat rose gold ring featuring a 1.40 carat center stone. And there's a beautiful contoured band that follows around the engagement ring. It's a lovely piece, but that gentleman lives in Chicago, and for the past 3 years, when since I've had my side business, I've been working completely referral, completely word of mouth, and he learned of me through another buddy that I just, you know, helped do this, and you know, being able to you know, to walk through that process, you know, just with one other guy. I mean, you have to be able to trust your jeweler. And, you know, in the big box opportunity stores like Costco or Walmart, who are actually the largest retailers of jewelry in the country now, you know, that that personal connection that you get with your personal jeweler is really something special. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. I love being able to be a part of celebrating others and figuring out what the important details are, even though in jewelry, they're very, very tiny details that mean the world to people. So that's what we do. And that's what I try to do every day, is just to make sure that those details are perfect for those that are going to have them. Because, when you give your sweetheart that little charm or a ring or a necklace, the goal for me at least is that it looks just as it did the day you gave it to her than it did the day she gave it to her granddaughter.
Nice.
That's just what I'm trying to strive for. So check out my website, look at previous work. Feel free to text me through the website. It comes straight to my phone. I'm always on.
I like to testify to, I like the new name, by the way. My relationship, my family is full of these pieces. I wish I would have known you were on. I just got the last minute call to come show up with my axe, but I would have brought my whole tray.
Man,
I got some cool stuff.
I appreciate you saying that. I wasn't going to call you out.
And there's the thing that separates working with you is you call me a week before an event and you say, "Hey, get your act together." And I don't even haven't talked to you like in a couple months. And like, oh, thank God you called. But the pieces are all really, each one has a meaning. I think what you're talking about with doing weddings, it's like how what my brother and I feel about weddings is like, love when someone asks you to do a wedding, because it's like there's not any other time in your life other than your birth and
it's so difficult right now, David, because I'm doing a wedding with 3 people on Sunday. Jake actually made the rings. Wow. And it's not what they imagined. They were going to have this huge wedding, and it's just not what they imagined. But
I was talking to Gail about that tonight, though. And I was talking to my mom too. It's like there's a lot of these sad stories, but at the same time, there's so much more meaning, and you kind of realize it's like, okay, you know how many gigs we have that didn't happen that were supposed to be like, oh my God, and now it's like, hey, I jammed on the back porch with the kids, and it's like, that was the gig, or just so, yeah. But I like the wedding. The way you talk about weddings is exactly how I feel walking a couple through how to have an event. Our cousin Stuart really mentored us on that, and this transformative events, be a part of those is really cool. So.
Absolutely. And it doesn't hurt to have a partner that likes jewelry. Nice. It's a real easy gift once you have somebody that you can trust. My wife hates jewelry, and it's the worst joke.
Carpenter's house, right?
But your mother loves it.
Yes, and you were lucky to. I'm always happy to give you jewelry, Mom.
Thank you, sweetie. I love everything you give me, and I always wear. This is the necklace that Jake made for Adina before she died, and I never take it off.
Oh wow!
All right, great. Jake and Josie, thanks for being on.
Thank you, George.
Thanks, George.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. It was fun.
Thanks for sharing your passions.
Anytime.
I don't think I can leave because I'm the host.
Nice.
Can you unassign me?
No, I'll do it.
What? Listen to me.
Okay.
Leave me.
All right,
Is there some music?
What do I do?
We'll still watch.
Is there some music?
Yeah, we're gonna do some music. David, let's see here. What happened? Oh, I'm the host now. Okay.
I'm the host.
So, there we are. Okay. So, David, I got some great pieces here that we can do some stuff with. I love these pieces. They're pieces of consolation. I just they were an experiment for me, something different than I've done before. And I come to like them. I came to understand the relation between grief and consolation in a ratio of 3 to 7, which means that grief is intense and it takes a greater intensity to find consolation. Can you relate to that? Yeah. So I'm going to read some of these pieces. I lay out a little groove. We'll do some of them. What kind of microphone are you using there, boy?
This is you showed me. You got me excited about these. This is the EVRE 20.
Yeah, it sounds good.
Thanks. Am I coming in all right?
Yeah, I
Hear
was.
the guitar?
I didn't hear the guitar yet, but the microphone sounds excellent.
Not too much reverb on there?
No. What do you got it plugged into? Yeah.
My board, my
okay.
the Producer X32, and I just run a cord to my computer, and Zoom picks up the whole studio.
Wow, it's cool.
Yeah, it comes out pretty even, I think.
Yeah, it's nice. Okay, baby face. I'm gonna explain in case our many listeners and watchers aren't familiar with David Lazaroff. He and his brother front a band called Brothers Lazaroff. Main major collaborators for me. They made a place for me in their creative lives, which I really appreciate. And it's been a very rich collaboration. We just finished a series of tunes, 11 tunes that we're gonna break out probably next week, I guess.
Whenever the machine tells us we've been approved and validated. And
yeah, really nice tunes. And a lot of it was recorded there in the studio where David is. And David has been, his whole family has been just such a rich addition to our lives, Susan and I. And in so many ways, creatively and personally, all ways, all the ways. Right, Susie? So I'm going to do some of these poems. I like these poems, they're really interesting. Let me hear some. You play the
Hear the guitar?
Yeah, baby. Django. Uh-oh, David's getting into something now. There you go. Comfort and be comforted. Listen, intention to offer and serve. Wilderness, a plain, every valley, a high place. All flesh, see together grass and flowers, speak to the mountains. Lift up your voice from low places. Foundations know and hear. Lift up your eyes, plant your feet. Give yourself a name. Give everything a name. You abandoned me. You've forgotten me. A mother does not forget her child. You came out of my womb. I could not forget you. Engraved sounds on your hands build me into a fence. Whatever pursues will depart. Lift up your eyes, alive. Clothe yourself with ornaments. Your narrows too small. Be a bride. Toasted, afflicted, all the children taught peace. Gemstones, rubies, sapphires, I have created a peace smithy, peace within righteousness. Give up your fear, pound out in coals a soul. Come together, your words, fire. Come close, a reward. No one will gather against you. Eat and drink and be satisfied. Comforting you. Who are you? What do you fear? Remember foundations, heavens above, earth beneath your feet. Lift up your hands and plant. The wave wore a name. I put words in your mouth. Shadow of my hand planted above. Lift up your eyes to sing out of your narrows. Lay out a tent, secure it with tent pegs and lines. Lay it out in pleasant places. Spread it out nightly. You will not be shamed. Remember, then forget the shame of your youth. We both blinked for a moment. The waters of Noah have passed. I have sworn on the mountains and hills the covenant of peace. Rise, shine. Your light has arrived. You shall shine even in darkness, and God's way will be seen by your light. Lift up your eyes. All around you, they are assembled to accompany you. Radiant, fearless, and expansive shall be your heart. Your light will never diminish. All your people are righteous. You are all a branch of the planting, God's handiwork, all of you. Consolation number 7. In my soul, joyful, clothes and garments, robes of justice and salvation. I am like a bridegroom, his priestly accessories, and a bride, her jewels, like the garden, like the earth, God bringing justice and praises before all nations. I will not rest, nor hold my peace until we burn like a torch. And all the nations will see you will be called by a new name. The mouth of God will speak. You will be a jewel in the open hand of God. Go through the gates. Clear the way for people. You are sought and interpreted, expounded, a city not forsaken. You are carried all the days of old. Those are the seven measures of consolation. May it come to us soon and in our time. David, thanks for showing up for the big show.
Thanks for having me. That was fun. Did you have all of the jewel references before Jake's?
Yeah, they're all in there. I'd kind of forgotten they were all in there.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's kind of weird.
Yeah. They're all in there.
Yeah. That was fun. Thanks for letting me do that. That was fun.
Well, one day we'll record it.
Yeah. We have it on this recorded on the video.
Yeah. All right, pal. Thanks for coming to the show.
Who's on the phone?
That's my friend Jim Robinson. And he's a late night guy. He's just getting started.
I just had breakfast a little while ago.
He's my good pal. So
love you all lots.
Love you, Jim, baby. Thanks for showing up.
Will do, buddy. Love you too.
David, thanks for coming, man.
That was fun.
Thanks, David.
See y'all.
See you soon.
Thanks for inviting me.
And everybody else, all the ships at sea.
Thanks for being with us for the salon. We'll be back next Thursday.
Should we close with a prayer of the hands? Leave it up. Okay. Oh, too late. I don't know where it is. Oh, there. No, that's not it. Well, next week we'll be back for some more giggles, and thank you for showing up and coming to the big show. And we'll talk to you soon.
Prayers for a better week
Good
for
week.
everyone.
Yeah. Thanks.